Hey team, today I thought I would record a quick podcast on what you should do if you are finding that your calorie deficit is no longer working or was never working in the first place. There are a ton of reasons why calorie deficit might not be working, and after working with a ton of clients, I've noticed a few things. So today I'm going to bring them up to you. The first thing is often when a calorie deficit is not working, it's very simple. It's because you're not tracking things accurately. Now, before I go into talking about how to track things accurately, there's a huge elephant in the room that we need to address. If you are new to tracking, then I would advise that you don't eat different things every fucking meal. Because when you have to track hundreds of different things every week, it is going to be harder than if you only have to track one breakfast a week, maybe one or two or three lunches, and maybe one or two or three dinners a week. And that you remain with that for as long as you can to make the journey easier for you and so that you get better at tracking things. Now, this is what that would look like. In my opinion, most people probably don't need to change their breakfast from day to day. In fact, most people don't even eat breakfast. You need to start eating breakfast. You need to ensure that it's getting you with enough protein so you feel satiated all the way to lunchtime. Because if you don't, you know what you're going to do, Cynthia. You're going to go and you're going to eat biscuits from the cupboard in your office that you shouldn't be eating, or you're going to make yourself a hot chocolate, or you're going to snack on things that you brought for later in the afternoon that don't make their way all the way into later in the afternoon. All right, then what you would do is you would make sure that you are eating the same thing every single day. So every breakfast should be the same. Now, you only have to track your calories in that breakfast once, and then you just make sure that you eat the same portions day to day to day. So for example, if you're eating oats, you would get a weight scale, you would measure the amount of oats that you should be eating, you would measure the amount of milk or water or protein or whatever it is you're putting into those oats. You do that once, and then you just repeat the process, and then you don't have to keep tracking the food and wondering whether you ate 40 grams or 50 grams, you just keep it the same. This will make your life so much easier because when you don't have to track something different all the time, you get better at tracking it. Then I would ensure that for things like your lunches, you add some variety, but probably not something different every day. Once again, you could do that, of course you can, but it's just going to be harder. So try and give yourself 1, 2, or 3 different lunches that you rotate, maybe week to week or throughout the week, and that's it. And the same thing goes for your dinners. If you do this, you will get better at tracking, you'll get better at actually knowing how much food you're eating, and if you're really lazy, there is a solution to this. You could buy pre-tracked food. So for example, I live in Australia and you can get things like My Muscle Chef meals. They're great because they've already calculated the calories for you. You just buy them and then you know that you're eating 500 calories or 400 calories or 600 calories or however many calories it is that you think you should be eating. The second reason why I find people struggle to lose weight when they start counting calories by themselves is if you're counting calories, you're more than likely utilizing something like MyFitnessPal. And you probably have done something that you think is the right thing to do. You've connected MyFitnessPal to your tracking Apple Watch or whatever sort of tracker you've got, and you've tried to work out, and then you notice that on MyFitnessPal, when you exercise, it shows that you've earned or you've burned an X amount of calories, so now you can eat more calories. That is wrong because quite often those trackers are not very accurate. Not everybody is burning 600 calories when they're going to their CrossFit class or their HIIT session. Some people actually, when they become fitter, actually burn less calories than the person who's really unfit in that class. Not everybody is going to burn the same amount of calories when they go for an hour run. The intensity to which you do that run is going to be different. And these apps and watches are not the best at tracking your calories burnt from time to time. So what I would advise most people do is don't base any of the effort that you put into exercise into your calorie deficit. Just make sure that you're purely going off by food. If you are more an advanced athlete, yes, there will be a time and a place for you to do that. But if you're a beginner and you're just starting out on the journey, do not account for any calories burnt and just focus on the calories that you've consumed and make sure that you remain in your calorie deficit by just the calories you consumed on a day-to-day basis. Now, the last thing that I notice that people make a mistake with is when you start going on a diet and you start being in a calorie deficit, this one thing is going to happen, and that is that you're going to get lazier because you're getting your body you're giving your body less energy. And when you give your body less energy, your body is smarter than you and it decides to just slow things down. Now, when you slow things down, what's going to happen is you're going to move less. These are micro movements that you're probably going to do less. If you were a fidgety person, you might not be fidgety anymore. If you were somebody who used to walk quite a lot, you might start noticing that you start not choosing to walk everywhere. Now, one way that we can combat this, and I'm not talking with violence here, I'm talking in a very peaceful way, is by making sure that you are tracking how many steps you were taking prior to being in a calorie deficit and making sure that you maintain those steps or that you even go as far as increasing them. If you do these three things, then you will ensure that you are actually being in a calorie deficit. And there's a big elephant in the room, which is a lot of the time when people go in a calorie deficit, they're not tracking things accurately because they're not measuring the amounts of food that they're eating. They're just ballparking them or they're going off by eyesight. So there's two ways to combat this. One, make sure you buy yourself a scale. It will be worth its weight in gold. A lot of them are pretty cheap. I bought one earlier in the year for about $20. So they're very cheap and they're going to make your life so much easier because you're going to actually know whether that large piece of chicken breast was a large one or an extra large one. You're going to be able to see how much oil you're putting into your salads, and that's a really easy place where you could be, smashing extra calories without even noticing it. And it's going to help you get a better handle on making sure that you're eating the right amount of calories that you think you are eating. With this one thing and these 4 different tips, you should be able to actually be in your calorie deficit without too much of a trouble or an issue. Now, if you're still struggling beyond this point, then there could be other things that we need to address. But for most people, I think these 4 points are a really good place to start with. So if you need help and you want help with accountability, you need help with understanding your macros better, you need help with understanding what foods you should be eating to give you the energy to be able to last from breakfast to lunchtime, well, lucky for you, I work with people who are exactly like you. So if you need help, please just send me a DM in my Instagram account, Raul the Trainer, and we can have a chat to see whether you're right for my 12-week challenge or whether you should work one-on-one with me. Anyway, team, hope you enjoyed this podcast. Hope you got something out of it, and keep smashing your week.